The Mark series amplifiers are very specific in the way they work, and once you understand that, then the sonic possibilities are endless. So let's dive right in. So we've got two rows here. We've got channel 1 and channel 2. Our switch here in the middle is our channel selector. From left to right, we've got our gain knob, we've got our treble, mid, bass, presence. So this is our tone stack over here. Then we got our master volume. And then we got the famous graphic EQ over here. You can turn it on with the switch and it is independent for each channel. Now, as I said earlier, this is a 2-channel amplifier. But if you see over here, we got another switch for each channel. And each switch has 3 different positions. And what it is actually 3 different circuits. So what that really means is that each channel is actually 3 different channels. Specifically in the Mark 535, our channel 1 can either be selected into the clean circuit, the fat circuit, or the crunch circuit. Channel 2 has the Mark 2C Plus circuit, and it's the actual original 2C Plus circuit, which if you're into the Mark amplifiers, you definitely know what that means. You've got the Mark 4 circuit, and then you've got the extreme circuit, which, if I understand correctly, what it does is it removes the negative feedback from the presence control. What you need to keep in mind with the Mark series amplifiers is that the tone stack comes before the preamp section. You're basically shaping what the guitar sounds like before it gets distorted, or not, depending on your setting. So let's say I have everything set at 12 o'clock, and I boost the treble all the way up. All of a sudden, the bass and the mid don't affect the sound as much as they would if I turned the treble a little bit further down. And especially on the bass, listen how much difference it makes if I turn the treble up. It's almost like all the bass goes away. But what it does do is eat up a lot of the headroom in the preamp section. So that's what causes the distortion to get flubby. Even though the treble overpowers it and we hear a thinner sound, we're ruining our tightness by boosting the bass as well. Specifically on channel 1, the mid knobs function is split into 2. The typical range is from 0 to 5, and from 5 all the way to 10, it actually switches into a boost. So the 12 o'clock for the mid knob for channel 1 is actually over here. Here's what everything sounds like at 12 o'clock. The gain is at about 9 o'clock. That's the clean mode. Let's hear what the fat mode sounds like. So a little bit louder. A little bit louder and more low end. This is perfect for a single coil guitar. So if I go in my middle pickup here and go from clean, and then I go to fat mode. And then we got crunch mode, which is more gain than a lot of amplifiers out there could ever achieve. And this is still channel 1, so this is crunch. One tip is to think about the gain knob as sort of the starting point of how high gain your tone will be, or you can also think about it as your tone knob. And then you can think about the treble as your actual gain knob, just to showcase that. Let's turn up the treble. A rule of thumb is the more treble and gain you have, the more you want to turn down the mid and especially the bass. The more low energy you add to your sound before it gets distorted, the more flubby you'll get. So here's how that sounds. Now to my ears, that doesn't even sound bad. It just has more of a flubby sound. It's still usable, but if you want the tightest possible sound, you go ahead and you turn that bass all the way down and you turn that mid down as well. And then you can dial mids to taste. So if you want to then add more bass, you have the graphic EQ. The graphic EQ comes in at the end of your signal flow, so it's just before the output. So you can shape your distortion with the tone stack, and then you can dial in your sound with the graphic EQ. So if you want that scooped sound, you can turn on your EQ. And then you can drop the 750. Now that's a bit too much for my taste, but I like mid-range. But then you can add some bass and make up for what you took away over here, and you still have bass for days. Now you need to be careful not to overload your output tubes. The more you boost, the more level you have, so don't clip your inputs. And then you can also boost the highs a little bit. And all of this is still on the clean channel. Now to quickly showcase the mid boost. So this is our clean tone. And let's boost it all the way up so we can get that nice overdrive boost. This amplifier also has a spring reverb. It's an all tube reverb, and the controls are at the back. And if we increase the gain a little bit, we get a very nice edge of breakup tone. Let's turn up the treble a little bit. See how that sounds? Turn down the bass because we're getting a little bit more distorted now. Boost the treble all the way up. See what happens if we turn the gain all the way up. I want to point out that we're on the clean channel on the fat mode, not even on the crunch mode right now. And then if you want to dial in your tone further, you always have your graphic EQ. So if I want to do like a nice sort of lead tone and I want more mids, I can do that. bit scoop the mids, you can do that. So just kind of knowing what we're doing and playing around, we just got a little bit of variety of tone out of this. Only using one channel and only using mostly one circuit. Now multiply it times 2 channels and times 3 circuits per channel. You basically have infinite tones possibilities, especially with how versatile the tone stack plus graphic EQ combo is. Let's also go through the different channel 2 circuits before we go through our little playthrough. So this is Mark 2C+. I want you to notice the clarity of the distortion, how you can hear every single note in a very complex chord with a pretty heavy distortion tone. Mark series amplifiers are pretty well known for that. And I'm not even boosting all the way up, so if I do all the way boost, turn down the mid as well. That's more distortion than you're ever gonna need in your entire life. And you scoop the mids, you get that nice metal tone that everyone loves. You can get that nice chug. This is how it sounds on the neck. That's without the EQ. And the Mark IV mode is a bit sweeter, more bassy, more lower mids. And then the extreme mode. The extreme mode removes the negative feedback from the presence knob. I'm not technical enough to know what that means circuit-wise, but what I do know is that once you switch it, the amp gets much louder and with infinitely more distortion. So here's what that sounds like. Now what I've found is that with the extreme mode, you unlock a wider range of usable tones with the presence knob. So that's just a little overview of how this amplifier works. Let me know if there are any other amplifiers or other studio gear that you want me to check out. I'll be happy to do so. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And until then, I'll see you next time. Goodbye.